Hi everyone. Alright, so I'm not a hairstylist, nor do I wish to be one because I absolutely do not enjoy doing other people's hair. Don't mind making wigs for others though when I'm in the mood and have the time for it. What I enjoy doing the most is sharing my trial and error moments with you guys because, you know, I didn't go to school for this stuff. That's what life is all about. Sharing, learning new things, and being awesome. The lace wig I'm going to be using for this look is from Wild African, and all details will be down below. Before I do anything else with most of my lace wigs, I like to customize them. And the first step to customizing is bleaching the knots, which is quite optional, but I believe it makes the lace look so much better. And I'm also going to list the different products that I'm using in this video in the info section down below. I mixed up the powder lightener and developer and added some color corrector to it to kind of tone down the brassiness, and I make the consistency really thick because I don't want it to run through the lace and end up bleaching the hair. I apply very little to no pressure when I'm applying it to the lace, and I let that process for about 30 minutes on average. Whenever you lift hair from a darker color to a lighter stage, you tend to have this brassy, orangey look. The color corrector kind of helps a little bit, but it doesn't always remove the brassiness. So this is where we use the purple shampoo. You can also use the regular toner, but this is a bit of a faster route. I've learned over the years when it comes to working with lace frontals and wigs that you don't really have to tweeze too much. Try to get a lace frontal or a lace wig that has a very nice hairline shape so you don't have to do too much work on your own part. And this particular wig has a very nice shape to it, so all I had to do was just tweeze it a little bit to reduce the bulk. And I normally like to go back about ½ an inch to an inch, and I try not to thin out the sides too much, especially with the way my own personal hairline is set up. It looks better when you have fuller hair on the sides anyway, so yeah. I normally wait to the very end when I'm done styling before I cut the lace, but I decided to cut it now to help me see things a little bit better if I'm gonna need more work or, you know, whatever the case might be. I go ahead and roughly comb roll my hair to kind of keep it out the way and as flat as possible. You can also wear a wig cap, but I prefer to comb roll my hair. I tried on the wig to see how things are looking. I'm gonna have to tint the lace because it's a little bit lighter than my own skin complexion, but if you're a lighter skin tone, you most likely will not need to tint this particular lace. With the way my hairline is set up, my sides protrude out a little bit more than the middle, so whenever I'm wearing a wig, if I want it to completely cover my side edges, it's gonna look like the wig is sitting on my forehead. So in order to avoid that, I trim back the lace a little bit around the middle to conform to my head shape better. Most lace frontals are about 13 inches wide, while most human heads are about 11 to 12 inches wide. So you might have to go back as well to trim out the sides of the lace a little bit to fit your ears better. This wig also came with wig combs around the front area, which doesn't really help the lace lay flat and they hurt and also pull on your edges, and over time it's gonna be thinning, so I sewed them on the back side instead for more security.
Guys, make I tell you some story. Go.
I use the Adore semi-permanent hair color mixed with some hot water to tint my lace. Some people use fabric dye, but I haven't personally tried it, but it works for them. And I dip the lace in the mixture, let it sit for 5 minutes, and go ahead and rinse it off. You can also experiment with different colors to see what works best for your skin tone.
This girl come, professor of vibe, Miss World South. I don't see yourself.
If you find that your lace look a little bit too warm when you tint it, you may go back in to apply some of the purple shampoo to some water, soak the lace in it for about 10 minutes, rinse it off, and it should look a bit more cooler toned.
Juice. This girl, those times I no get sick.
If I don't plan on wearing my hair up, I might just use the elastic band method, only stretch it out from ear to ear across the back to kind of figure out how much you're gonna need. What the elastic band does is put pressure on the lace and pulls it back so that it's gonna stay flat on your head.
Right.
So you got so many different options that you can experiment with when it comes to applying your wigs. Depending on the style that you're wearing as well, you can decide to just use the elastic band and then apply some mousse to your edges to kind of scatter the little hairs in the front to camouflage things pretty much. Normally I do that with like curly wigs. I don't really like baby hairs that much on like a straight wig or something like that, so I try to make them look a bit more cleaner at the hairline. Another option is to use the Got2b gel. You can also use lace tape or sew it down, which I haven't personally tried, but those are some methods you can always experiment with. I applied 2 layers of the gel, first one to keep my edges away, let it dry, then the second one I let it get tacky, then place the wig down. You may also add the Got2b free spray, but I didn't really have it at the time. You don't really need it, but if you want extra hold, then you can use it, or any good holding hairspray that you have at home. Before I actually cut and style the wig, I decided to try it on with the Got2b gel, which is very temporary. It's like a very soft form of glue. Whenever any type of moisture, sweat, water, anything touches it, it starts sliding right off. Then I tie it down with a scarf till it dries or set.
You think said you all they revolve around your bumper. You think said you all they revolve around your big hand.
This wig is a very lovely wig with a very nice texture, matches my own real hair perfectly, but I feel like because of the density and the length, it's not doing the wig much justice, so I decided to cut it into a bob.
Hold up, hold up, hold up.
I'm trying out a blunt asymmetrical bob as well. It's gonna make the hair look a little bit fuller and healthier and just cool, you know. I pretty much cut the hair straight across along the shorter side, and as I was working my way to the longer side, I started doing like a slopey cut downward. I wanted it to be a smooth transition from short to long, and I also want it to be a bit long like a lob because I want to be able to put it in a low ponytail without it looking too funny. And initially the wig was about 20 inches, but once I cut it, it's roughly 13 inches at the shortest and 15 inches at the longest. It's easier to use a clipper to cut a bob like this because it gives you more of that cleaner look. I also decided on some color. You know, it's summer, you can never go wrong. I used 2 different developers. The bottom part is gonna start lightening before I get done with the top, so I used the 20 on the bottom and the 40 at the top. I also added Olaplex to the mixture to help decrease any potential damage the bleach might do to the hair. Left it on for roughly 20 minutes, then went off to wash it off.
And that's why when I did for road, it be you day my mind. Or if you say you go live with me, while you go make a die, I go feel to die.
I wasn't too satisfied with the results, so I went in to pick out some random pieces around the top part of the wig to lighten it a little bit more, sort of like to create highlight situation kind of a thing. And this time I opted for the 30 volume developer.
Then they make a fight over.
While I was applying it to the hair, I would twist the top part of the hair so that everything kind of transitions smoothly. I wanted the color to be a little bit closer to the top where the hair is on my face, so I brought the color a little bit higher across the front on the longer side. I let that process for about 15 minutes, wash it off, and I deposited a final color on top so it doesn't look so brassy and harsh. This is just a typical drugstore box color. I didn't have any extra toners and it worked. I let that process for 30 minutes, washed and conditioned the wig, dried it, flat ironed it, and here we are, the final product. So I'm trying lace glue for the first time in my life. Oh my god, I've been so scared of glue for the longest because you know all the horror stories. I've been seeing a commercial for this Clink glue all over social media. You know, they advertise that it doesn't pull out your edges, you can swim in it, it doesn't come off when you sweat. I was hyped. So I went and bought it. I also watched a couple tutorials and reviews that people had on it online. You know, some people were complaining, but I was like, you know what? I'm still gonna try it. I want to experience it for myself. So I gelled down my edges first to keep them out the way. Went ahead to clean my hairline to get rid of the excess dirt or makeup. I would advise doing this before you do your makeup, but either way, it can always be worked around. The direction says to add 4 different layers of this glue before attaching your wig, and it says before adding the second, third, and so on. You need to let the glue dry a little bit to like a clear state for a few seconds, but minutes went by, this thing never goes clear. And I even used the brush to help me distribute things a little bit better so I don't end up putting too much on my hair, because it says to use a thin layer, and I believe that's what I did. By the 4th application, this thing never goes clear, but I was like, you know what, this glue is about to completely dry, it's already tacky, I'm just gonna apply my wig, right? So I applied my wig, waited for this glue to dry clear. This thing did not go clear. I'm like, what the hell did I just do to myself? myself. At this point, the wig is stuck to my head. So guess what? The smartest idea that came to my head was, hey, why don't you just apply your makeup powder to it and change the color? That's a dumb idea, by the way. Don't do that because it's like masking a smell with a perfume. Like, nah. So I got this Play-Doh looking shit on my head after applying my powder. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to take this thing off, start all over, wash the wig, and I was just bugging out. One thought was like, wait, why don't you try the alcohol, which pretty much helps remove any excess dirt and stuff. I was so happy this worked. So I went back to fix my makeup and blend everything together, and that is all.
Baby, baby, my baby, the wire. Baby, baby, na fire. Baby, oh baby, my baby, the wire. Oh, I better. Tonight, I be hungry man. Baby, give me food and make a chop. To my son, I will bet. Baby, give me food and make a chop. Tonight, I be hungry man, no. Baby, give me food and make a job.
You know I couldn't leave you guys hanging without telling you about the takedown. I tried the glue because I wanted to keep the wig on for several days. And I wanted to be able to flip the hair back and forth without it falling off, sliding and all that. But after a few days, the wig started to slide back a little bit. And guess what? Your edges is sliding back with it too. So I was like, you know what? It's time for this thing to come down. I used the uncling product that they recommended to remove the glue. I let that sit a few minutes and started peeling up from the side. This stuff is really strong. Like, it took a while for the wig to start peeling off. You need to be extremely patient. Please don't yank it off your head unless you don't want your edges left. And try to use the glue sparingly, like once in a 1 million blue moon. Don't be slapping the glue on your head every second you see, unless you don't like your edges. They claim it doesn't bring out your edges, but 1 or 2 strands of hair came out. At least that's what I could see. Regardless of how they advertise it, like, oh, if you take it out properly, yo, this shit is stressful. But luckily it all came out. I went to wash it off from my edges. It came off effortlessly. Didn't have too much to really take off from my own hair because it didn't really get on my hair. It was mainly on my forehead where I applied it, like my skin. And also came off the wig effortlessly when I washed the wig as well. Thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you found this video helpful. And don't forget to check the info section below for extra details and info on the products that I use.